After chatting to a lot of the rum community, especially the guys earlier on in their rum journey, I know many people will avoid it because of the tag Jamaican rum has. People think it's just way too funky. Now, what is that Jamaican funk? And why do people think it is too funky? And no, I'm not talking about you Jamaicans. I know you're brought up on the stuff in the same way I was brought up on Cornish pasties, Cornish ice cream and Cornish cider. Hello, Rattler. You Jamaicans love the stuff, so I'm not talking to you guys. I'm talking to everyone else that doesn't have the pleasure of coming from your island. Hey rum fans, I'm Steve the Barman and I'm here to help you on your rum journey by mainly focusing on rums under £50. And if you want even more help on your journey, don't forget to join my free Discord community, or even better, come and join my membership community because there's even more amazing and fun perks to be had in there. So first off, to us in the UK, and I dare say it around the world as well, why do we think that Jamaican rum is funky? Where does that reputation come from? I'm pretty sure this beast has something to do about it. I've known of this since very early in my bar days, very early in my bartending career, like we're talking way back into 1995. This rum has been available in supermarkets, it's been available on buying lists to pubs and bars since I can remember. Back in the days when we only really had a choice of a couple of the Havana rums and Bacardi. One of the only other choices was this. Now I know it's gone up a little bit in price these days, but essentially we used to get that from the supermarkets for £25, give or take, and it's 63% ABV. So you know people are just going to look at that and go, oh, I'm going to have a bit of that. It's always had this cult following. People absolutely love it. And as I said, it's been on buying lists since before, before I was lucky enough to be able to start to get these three in my bar in the mid 2000s. Your kind of Eldorado 12, your Pampero, your Angostura in 1919. This was about way before then. Now, Ray and Nephew, this stuff, the aroma it has is totally like, whoa, what's that? That is your inherent funk that many of us would associate with Jamaican rums. There is just no mistaking that aroma, let alone the taste. And to be honest, if you're buying, we're lucky enough to get rum in the supermarkets in the UK when we do our local vegetable shopping and all that malarkey. We're lucky enough to be able to pick up booze like that. I know that doesn't happen around the world, but potentially the only other option we had back in those days was something like or the signature blend. I've got a bottle over there, I forget what it was called now, reserve blend, signature blend, whatever it was, but essentially this rum back in the day, that might have been your only other alternative for a Jamaican rum. But I will still say, probably 1 in 10, 1 in 15 supermarkets carried that compared to carrying that. And even then, back in the day, Appleton's signature, it was a lot different to what it is now. So our only examples really of Jamaican rum was Ray and Nephew, and the smell, the aroma. If that's your first kind of idea of Jamaican rum, you are going to think, wow, that is a funk bomb. And you're just naturally going to jump to the conclusion that all Jamaican rums are the same. Hands up, I did. But the simple fact is, it's probably completely the opposite. I would say the vast majority of Jamaican rums, especially under £50, the vast majority of Jamaican rums are completely and utterly opposite to Ray and Nephew. But look, I'm not going to deny that all Jamaican rums are inherently different to Barbados, to Guyana, to St. Lucia, those other English colonies out in the Caribbean. The Jamaican rums are completely different, but don't think they're all funk bombs, because they're really not. I mean, people call this Smith and Cross. People, even my community in the last year, people refer to this as a funk bomb. Now look, I won't deny it has that inherent Jamaican kind of profile on the nose and on the taste, but it is far from being an out and out Jamaican funk bomb of a rum. I mean, it's tasty, it's great, but there's a lot funkier than what this will ever be. So let's cover two things. Firstly, what is that Jamaican profile? And secondly, what is a funk? What is funk bombs? Well, the inherent sort of Jamaican profile, as I would refer to it, and let's just pick out these two, for example. And I'm talking brands, essentially. I'm talking Appleton, the whole Appleton estate portfolio, and Worthy Park. They have this inherent kind of overripe banana and sort of overripe pineapple vibes. And while you still get sort of pineapple and coconut and all that in Barbados rums, for example, they're a completely different type of pineapple to what you get in Jamaican rums. As I say, it comes back to that overripe sort of pineapple, that overripe banana. But don't think of that as a bad thing. Think of that as a fun, good, tasty thing. Now, many people would class that kind of banana, overripe banana, as funk, and they're probably right, to be fair. But do not confuse that kind of overripe profile with high estery kind of profiles that you get from Hamden, that you get from Ray and Nephew, that you get a little bit from Rum Bar. Because for me, to dumb it right down, high esters and funk are two totally different things. These beasts right here, they'll be totally different, totally and utterly different from your Appletons, from your standard sort of Worthy Parks. The high esters in these essentially come from yeast strains, different types of yeast strains. And in some cases, although not the majority of cases, but in some cases, some rums, some distilleries will still use dunder pits where that sort of ferment is recycled over and over again. And there are stories where certain kind of brands will add more, shall we say, food waste to those dunder pits to kind of keep them going and keep them even more funky. But in the main, we are talking about different yeast strains which react with the rum, which react with the molasses and the ferment to kind of create a high ester rum. Now, I won't go too in depth about sort of yeast strains and all those high esters. That's a really kind of different story and kind of at large irrelevant to rums under 50 quid, because even this Havana 8-year-old, Hamden 8-year-old is actually well over 50 quid. I've just got it here as a pure example of this type of rum. But putting these two aside for a minute, you simply don't get, in the vast majority of Jamaican rums under 50 quid, you simply don't get those high esteries, those kind of solvents, the real high solvents, the kind of grassy, kind of citrusy elements going on. Those intense, funky rums, you just don't really get under 50 quid. But here's a good point for you guys to get involved, you guys that have been on this journey. In the comments below, help the rest of the community out. What is the biggest funk bomb rum, Jamaican funk bomb rum you've ever tried? Put that in the comments below. And similarly, help the newcomers out as well. Let newcomers know Jamaican rums that probably don't have that kind of high ester vibe to them. You know, there's plenty more brands out there. Let us know what they are. So Jamaican rum, it is a great starting point for the rum newcomer. But do not be put off by that tag, funk, or high esters or anything like that, because at under £50, as I've just said, you are merely talking about overripe banana and those tropical pineapple kind of vibes in rums. But you're still going to get those lovely kind of vanilla, lovely wood, oak vibes, maybe some honey, also a touch of spice as well, maybe cinnamon or nutmeg. You are going to get those plentiful at rums under sort of £50. I mean, there's a good example of this, the Plantation Zymaca. On the nose, you really kind of gives you a nod to what high esters and to what funk actually is. But on the taste, it's a lovely rum, but it just doesn't deliver at that level. It's just a really brilliant entry point to Jamaican rum. So that is one direction you could go in if you want to try. But there's a reason why I've got this out, because if you really do want to get on your Jamaican journey, then I kind of always tout this as one of the best value rums for money on the market. This is Appleton 8-year-old and it is an absolute belter. And I mean, heck, I'm talking about rums under 50 quid. This is inherently under 30 quid. It's great as a neat sipper. It's great in cocktails. It's great for a rum and coke. It's great for a rum and ginger beer. This is one hell of an all-rounder rum. And while it has hints of banana, of pineapple, of honey, it is still got plenty of that vanilla, of that subtle spice, of that wood oak barrel aging, because it has been aged for 8 years. It's also a lovely kind of underlying caramel, maybe toffee vibe going on to it as well. I don't really think of that in any shape or form as having Jamaican funk. But if you are inquisitive about this whole high ester funk bomb kind of thing. There's a couple, but you don't want to spend like 30, 50 quid on something. Yes, look, I'll be honest, Smith & Cross is a lovely rum. For me, it's quite expensive for what it actually is in the UK, but it is a great example. But I do believe you can actually do better. Because yes, while you could go Ray and Nephew, while you could go Rum Bar Overproof, roughly these days around the £30 mark, maybe a touch more, 32, 34 pounds. They are 63% ABV. And maybe not necessarily what you're kind of looking for to start off in sipping. So this is why I've got these two here, because these are under £20 and I think probably are the best entry to Jamaican funk, to that ester that's probably in the UK market. But while these will give you some idea of what to expect, believe you me, they are not on the same level as something like that. That is where your high esters come out to play. But if you're willing to drop even more money than what this is, your 60s, your 70s, your £100 on a bottle of rum, even that is going to look like there's nothing to it. So the more money you spend on Jamaican rum, the higher esters, the more funk you will get. But at that lower point, you know, if you want to get inquisitive, that's somewhere what I would go. But if you just want to try Jamaican rum for what it inherently is, without that funk, without that high esters, something like that, all day long.